Okay, so the world has this thing where everyone accepts that you must have 8 hours of sleep. And that's not really scientifically the case because the stupid thing is that that's actually just because someone went one day, well, we need people to work. And how should we split the workday? Oh, maybe we should split this 24-hour day into three. And we'll have them work 8 hours, we'll have them rest 8 hours with free time, and then they can sleep for 8 hours. So that's the whole reason that people need 8 hours of sleep, just because it perfectly splits the workday up. Really, it's not the case, because I know that I need 10 hours of sleep and I feel happy and awake and, not drained and everything. I've had a decent 10-hour sleep. Some people say that they need less, but, I just feel healthiest and happiest and my mind works properly and I'm able to function properly and happily and not be falling asleep if I have 10 hours of sleep. If I have 8 hours of sleep, I feel tired and drained, and sometimes I will feel like I need to go back to sleep and have a nap. And that's just not really ideal, is it? And that's not the way. And the world has evolved a bit since then as well, because it used to be that the Working Time Directive said that you worked 8 hours in the day and you had paid lunches and breaks. So if you did an 8 hour day, 9 till 5, you would have one 30-minute paid break and one 15-minute paid break. Of course, Brexit and all this other nonsense happened, and then there's been changes to the EU Time Directive, and it doesn't seem that that exists in the EU Time Directive anymore. And now the case is that you work 8 hours of the day working, but then you also have to take an additional 1 hour total of unpaid breaks. So really you're spending 9 hours of your day in work. So you have one unpaid 30-minute break and two unpaid 15-minute breaks, just so that they can avoid paying you, and you also work all this extra time. Because it used to be the 9 to 5 would be including your paid breaks for the 8 hours. So you would actually be working 7 hours and 15 minutes. But that's not productive enough, is it? You have to work your full 8 hours and you have to be working for them. And you cannot be paid for your breaks anymore, because that's just ridiculous that you would have your paid breaks, as used to be the case in times past. That's just not right. Why should we be paying you to have your breaks? So that's kind of shitty. So actually you're working 9 hours of the day now. And that's not counting if you're actually travelling to anywhere. So let's say you were doing a traditional 9 to 5. Okay, so 5 o'clock. Then you add your 8 hours onto that. So that would be, 5, 6, 7, 8? That would be 1 a.m. that you would be having your free time until. And then you would sleep until 9 a.m. So really, you don't get your full 8 and 8 for the other things anyway, even if you're working that. Because really you're going to want to be asleep midnight at the latest, really, to get up to get to work for 9 a.m. And let's say you wake up at 8 a.m. and then you go to work at 9 a.m. You've still lost an hour out of your free time with even 8 hours of sleep. But then you haven't taken into account transit, have you? And some places are even saying that transit to work is expected to be 100% of your workday, which is stupid. I've noticed a lot of jobs these days with applications are like, unless you're willing to travel 100% of your workday to travel to work, then are you even working? And that would leave you with no free time. And, if that's 8 hours you're travelling each way, that's stupid, that's impossible. But, I've worked jobs where you've had to travel an hour each way, and that's stupid enough as well, because you're working your now 9 hours plus 2 hours, so that's then 11 hours that you've lost out of your day to travel and all this other bullshit. And also I've worked jobs where actually we've worked these were festivals, like 15, 17 hours in a day, and yeah, sure, we're waking up on the festival site, but really that's completely illegal. And also, we were given the world's tiniest lunches, but, again, things that just people get away with in this day and age of industry, right? But it's utterly ridiculous because you're actually spending some of your free time in the morning, having breakfast, preparing, leaving, traveling. Where is your free time? You're just spending it all the time working. And even if you're not working, you are, say you're working from home, you're spending 9 hours of your day still working. And then, there's still preparation time in the morning to have breakfast and get everything set up and everything. And then, in the evening, you've got to cook food for yourself, you've got to make food, and to then have a reasonable 10 hours sleep as well, so that's 19 hours just work and sleep, and then you have 6 hours, and you're probably using a lot of that in the morning, and then some of that to have dinner in the evening. You've just really not got 8 hours remotely left. You're lucky if you've maybe got like 4 or 5 hours of actual free time to do anything in a workday. So, these balances that they've made of the 888 theory, it's just completely out the window these days, isn't it? It does not exist, and they wonder why people are so drained and so tired. And then you end up paying tax out of a lot of the money that you earned to go back to the government just because you've worked so much, that you've earned so much, that actually you're not earning it because it's just going back into tax. Whereas if they reduce the working hours so that, it wasn't this traditional 9 to 5 and people worked 35 hours a week, people would have more free time, people would have more energy, and there would be more jobs for other people because some other people would take up those additional hours. But again, the governments and this, all of that, and blah, 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 they just don't get all that, do they? They just don't get the, reducing the hours by 5 per week gives some other people some extra jobs and, gives people more free time and all this, but it doesn't work like that. And bring back the half hour and 15-minute paid lunch, because I would gladly give up 15 minutes of break to actually be paid for my lunch and break like people used to be, and also shorten the workday by an hour. I can have one extra 15-minute break to work for an extra hour, or I can work 9 to 5 rather than 9 to 6 and lose a 15-minute break and still be paid the same. What would you rather do? Because that did used to be the case. I don't know when they actually stopped doing that, but it did used to be the case that you would work 9 till 5 and you would get a half-hour pay break and one 15-minute paid break and no more. That's it. That's your 8 hours. But now they've sneakily added this extra hour. Have an extra 15-minute unpaid break so that all your breaks are unpaid, but work an extra hour. Lose a whole extra hour out of your day. Lose all that extra time, and that adds up out over the week, Rather than doing the 40 hours that you're being paid for, you're actually doing 45 hours a week, but you're not being paid for those extra hours. You just lose that because of these extra 15-minute breaks a day. And I personally, if I had the choice, I would rather work 8 hours, be paid for 8 hours, and have those unpaid breaks gone, and just have the 30-minute and 15-minute pay break, because that's a lot less time out of my day gone, and still being paid exactly the same. And that did used to be the legislation, so I don't know when they changed that. That's not right. It's not right at all. And yeah, don't believe, because there's no science to it. There's absolutely no science to the 8 hours of sleep. It's literally just because they went, oh, how can we perfectly split up work, evening, and sleep? 24 hours divided into 3, that's 8. Yep. Let's give them 8 hours of work, 8 hours of free time, and 8 hours of sleep. No medical science, nothing. That's literally the only reason it exists. But again, like I say, they've completely twisted it on its head, so you don't even get that anymore. You're working 9 hours a day, plus however long you have to travel into work, and then, then you've got sleep, and you just have no free time. None at all. It just goes out the window because that's what they think is fair, but it isn't, and it's just stupid that this is still believed to this day. It's not right. I don't know. I think it had to be some point in the 2010s that this all changed. But you used to be able to get paid lunches and paid 15-minute breaks. So when they went away, I don't know. Just to get a whole extra hour work out of you. And it's not fair on the workers, and it shouldn't exist.